Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Corwin, I'd like to pick up with you, please. I think we tried with the acting Fish and Wildlife Service Director to ask some pretty basic questions in a lot of different ways to try to draw out what seems pretty obvious, that it's a lot harder to protect fish and wildlife and to manage refuges and do other things when you have a depleted staff and when your budget has been hammered. But we couldn't quite get that acknowledgement. What seemed to come out was that we will just sort of solve all these problems with good wishes. We'll manifest good outcomes somehow. And I want to go back to a time you referred to in your testimony, back before we had all these laws. People had good wishes back then. They wanted good outcomes, but it was determined that we actually also need laws, and we need agencies, and we need to have them staffed, and we need to have conservation standards that mean something. Can you sort of speak to why good wishes don't quite get you there when it comes to protecting wildlife from bad outcomes?
I think I could approach that from my experiences working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, working with NOAA, working with a lot of state and federal agencies, as I am absolutely blown away by their ability to work with minimal resources to do incredible feats of conservation. And some of my greatest experiences and most powerful positive stories has been with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in their incredible conservation work. But that requires resources. And those resources, I don't think, are spent anecdotally to protect something that we care about. It's beyond that. It's about securing natural resources that we depend upon. And when we see in the greater environment animals that are facing challenges and that are in trouble, that need us to sort of step in and cultivate an environment where they can recover, that usually also indicates that there are impacts to that environment that could have a ripple effect upon ourselves. In the end, we're all interconnected to these resources, and it is incredibly important that our federal agencies and our state agencies have those resources to do their job to ensure that the next generation of Americans inherits a biologically rich and healthy country.
Yeah, thank you. And laws that set meaningful standards and enforcement mechanisms, we didn't used to have that. And back before these laws were put in place, many species were on a bobsled to extinction. It was looking pretty bad, but we've had some incredible success stories. Can you speak to some of those with the MMPA in particular, some of the successes and how these laws actually worked and did?
We have seen, thank you for that question, we have seen incredible recovery, for example, with California sea lions in some regions of coastal California. To me, one of the most incredible stories of recovery is the elephant seal. The elephant seal was reduced to 100. It's now over 10,000, and it took a lot of science, sweat equity, and a lot of folks giving their time, treasure, and talent to recover that species, but with state agencies and with federal agencies. And the recovery of that species meant the recovery of fisheries that species depends upon, and also an incredible resource for people that live in the state of California, because tens of millions of dollars is spent in the region of Año Nuevo State Park, where people go to witness this incredible odyssey of nature with elephant seals that nearly became extinct.
And at the Point Reyes National Seashore.
Yes.
We got lots of them. We love them. Another thing in this proposed bill would be a new kind of constraining of science, where you could only act to protect species if you actually saw the deaths of these species and jumped through all of these hoops, including peer-reviewed studies, to prove the cause of that death. In other words, it would be really hard to actually get to the point of taking action to protect some of these animals. Mr. Corwin, you know that many animals spend most of their lives underwater, far from shore, in pods. They migrate across vast areas. How realistic is it to demand that level of proof before you can take protective action for marine mammals?
Well, data is incredibly important. all the progress we've made in conservation and the challenges that we've been able to hurdle comes from scientific data through standards and methods that we do to analyze and then come up with a management program. We need to know why animals die. And just like with a human being, if you saw someone who died mysteriously, you would want to know why and you'd do an autopsy. Well, we do the same thing with animals. It's called a necropsy. And all that information we discover not only reveals the impact of that individual, but also what's happening in that population and species. And oftentimes we could find an interconnection to ourselves, for example, with a resource that we also use that they use, for example, with diatoms and algae and things like that, and blooms in the environment. So
Mr.
it's
Corwin,
critically
I'm going to
important.
need you to wrap up.
Sorry
please.
about time.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yield back.
Thank you. We are at a